The story. The Matrics of 2020 have had a really rough year. 6 months of lockdown and remote learning, very few of the special milestones that mark the final year of school. Matric dances, big sporting events, valediction, the honour of a matric year after 13 years of hard work. And now they're just weeks away from their final matric exams. The matrics have already completed their prelims, so let's find out how they have done, because often this is an indicator of how the matric final exams are going to go. And I'm joined in studio by Spokesperson for the Gauteng Education Department, Steve Mabona. Steve, thank you very much for your time. It's great to have you in studio after all these remote connections. How did the matrics do in the prelims?
Well, the picture is not what we expected. It's quite concerning. Hence, we have identified about 10,000 of our learners that we said, these ones, they must go to the camps. We have been actually checking them in the camps, throughout this past weekend. They are there, they will be there for a week. And there are those that will then be going to what we call walk-in centers. They didn't close. They are attending every day, including weekends. So it's about 76,000 of those. And we think that this final push will then, assist, because we are talking about those that will be at level 2 in terms of, the levels. And it's quite concerning, because when you're at level 2, you are on the borderline of failing. So that's why we felt that we need to make sure that we go and enhance and polish on whatever that we can, utilizing this last week.
Is it 10,000 Gauteng matrics on level 2, or more than that, did you say?
That number, yes, it's about 10,000 that would have been.
Is that higher than you would have had, like, say, last year?
Well, when I was looking at the figures, the home language is quite a concern for us, because you look at there's about 10% that if you don't push them, they might fail. Because remember, failing home language, then it means you have failed.
Right.
So in other languages, you see it's about 5% of those that might fail, and the others will then have 3%. But our concern is English as a home language, and it's quite concerning. But when you look at the other subjects, when comparatively speaking, your accounting, it's still a concern, and geography. But the other subjects, you see an improvement, but there's still a percentage that it's worrisome.
Yeah, and I mean, Gauteng is an urban province, and a lot of children have access to electricity and to Wi-Fi and to some sort of technological support. So, as you say, it's lower than you expected. It's worrying that these kids are on the borderline, at least 10,000 matric kids who are now in danger of failing. Do you think that we're just going to have to prepare ourselves for a lower matric pass rate for 2020 generally?
Well, we need to be hopeful, but realistically so as well. I mean, we need to be factual and realistic. You don't expect a higher percentage in terms of your pass rate. If you have one, then probably, that's why we are hopeful. It will be a miracle, but we need to be realistic.
Yeah.
The prelims are, an indicator of what's going to be happening.
So I'm sure you adjusted your expectations downwards because of COVID, but is it even worse than you were expecting?
Look, that's why we felt that we need to push.
Yeah.
We don't need to throw our hands in the air. We need to push, use the final week to push and make sure that the subject advisors and the educators that have a know-how, that have a skill, let's try to polish them. Hence, we'll appeal to parents, let's give our grade 12 some time, we need to give them space. And we've been saying to them, they don't need to be thinking about fun now, and they just need to focus and make sure that they are not derailed by your matric dances that you were talking about, because we know some quarters, some of them, in the schools, they are facilitating those, which are not going to assist us really. They need to understand that the matric dancing is not going to assist you.
Particularly with COVID around, you don't want a child getting COVID-19, they're not being able to sit their exams at all, because that will affect the entire next year. Because if they fail, am I right, they only get a chance to rewrite in May next year?
Definitely. And it's different now, but we are well prepared. We have more centers. We have to have more centers that we prepared. And we have our invigilators we have already appointed, including the markers as well. They are ready. And when coming to logistics, we are ready from the department, but then we just need to make sure that there's a final push from our learners and make sure that they are ready.
So there is learner support. When do the first exams start?
On the 5th of November. It's our big paper. We'll be all over the show. We'll be making sure that we monitor, because the integrity of this examination is quite key. It's not going to be an easy paper. It's going to be the same difficult paper that all the learners have written. So learners must not be thinking that it's going to be a COVID-relaxed paper.
A COVID-relaxed paper, not at all.
We're going to relax the paper, because remember, in future, you don't want learners to be aspired. You don't want learners to be, told that you
got a COVID matric.
You wrote the easy paper and all that. So the paper is still a difficult one. That's why we said they must go back and utilize the previous question papers to guide them to understand on what is coming.
So the last push, the last week or so, absolutely, they've really got to put their heads down and just work. Thank you very much, Steve Mabona, who speaks, of course, for the Gauteng Education Department, telling us that there are 10,000 matric students who they're really, really worried about. They're urging them to get into those extra classes and just work really, really hard in the last week before the matric finals start.